Hello everybody, it's the Tabletop Tyrant, and today I'd like to welcome you to the grim world of Warhammer Fantasy, where orcs will clash with dwarves and skaven in endless battles of brutal conquest. Today, we dive into the savage life of Gorfang Rotgut, also known as the Troll Leader and despised by the dwarves as the Squatter King. Gorfang is one of the most feared orc war bosses in the Old World, ruling over Black Crag, a stronghold steeped in blood and violence. But how did Gorfang rise to power? And what makes him so feared by dwarves and skaven alike? Let's find out. Black Crag wasn't always an orc fortress. Once, it was the proud dwarf hold known as Crag. But centuries of warfare have changed all that. Now Gorfang Rotgut rules it with an iron fist, leading the Red Fangs and Broken Tooth tribes. His primary tribe, the Red Fangs, is currently the most powerful orc tribe in the western end of Death Pass. Gorfang's control doesn't end with the Red Fangs, however. He's brutally subjugated most of the local orc tribes, consolidating his rule over the surrounding lands. His most notable ally in this is the infamous Skarsnik, the Night Goblin leader of Crag 8 Peaks. Together, through each other, they dominate Death's Paths, though their alliance is tense, built on necessity rather than trust. Gorfang himself is a fearsome sight to behold. Standing as tall as an ogre, he's fought in countless battles. He lost one of his eyes during the Battle of the Jaws, a brutal skirmish where Thane Durgar Hammerfist and his dwarves managed to wound him. Gorfang wears an iron patch over his eye as a reminder of the cost the dwarves paid to him. According to Gorfang, it took Durgar and all his boys to inflict the injury, and he's been out for revenge ever since. Gorfang's hatred of dwarves goes far beyond mere rivalry. It's personal. Over the years, he's fought in numerous battles against the dwarf race, and none were more devastating than his siege of Barak Varr and the attack on Crag Azul. During the siege of Barak Varr, Gorfang unleashed a gruesome tactic to break the dwarf spirits. He ordered the severed heads of dwarf captives to be catapulted over the walls and into the city, a grisly display of orcish brutality that shook the defenders to their core. But Gorfang wasn't done. His most infamous act came during his attack on Crag Azul. When Gorfang and his army breached the throne room of King Cazador of Crag Azul, they captured many of the dwarf king's kinsfolk. These captives were dragged back to the dungeons of Black Crag, where, believe it or not, they remain to this day. But Gorfang's most vile act wasn't just capturing Cazador's family. It was what he did to the king's son, Kazrik. Gorfang didn't kill Kazrik. Instead, he shaved the young dwarf's head, tattooed it with a crude orc glyph, and then nailed him to Cazador's own throne. Though Kazrik survived the ordeal, it left him mentally scarred and broken, fueling the dwarf's hatred for Gorfang. Cazador has sworn an oath of vengeance, waiting for the day he can crush the orc warlord. But Gorfang's enemies aren't limited to the dwarves. In one of his most legendary confrontations, he sought out the Skaven warlord, Queek Headtaker, looking for a fight. At the time, Queek's army was engaged in battle with the dwarves. Seeing this as an opportunity, Gorfang and his mob smashed through the Skaven ranks, searching for Queek. What Gorfang found wasn't what he was expecting. A wedge of red armored storm vermin led by Queek himself. Cutting through his mob, Queek fought with a ferocity Gorfang hadn't seen before. It was a challenge the orc warboss just couldn't resist. The two titans clashed in a brutal duel. Gorfang's massive stone club, a weapon forged from the leg of a dwarf statue, smashed the ground with each strike while Queek dodged and stabbed with his famed dwarf gouger. In a lucky strike, Queek drove his blade deep into Gorfang's groin. But instead of falling, Gorfang laughed. "That all you got, rat? Dis armor's the stickest," Gorfang says, as he proceeds to thrust his hips in mockery. Queek's victory was short-lived. Gorfang swatted the Skaven warlord aside, sending him crashing into his own storm vermin. But before Gorfang could finish Queek, something, or someone, caught his eye. You see, a new opponent had entered the battlefield, Kazrik. The same dwarf prince that Gorfang had once tortured and humiliated had now returned, now a broken slayer. Kazrik sought vengeance against the orc who had ruined his life. The two recognized each other instantly, and without hesitation, Kazrik attacked. In the chaos, Queek managed to escape, but Khazrak and Gorfang were locked in combat. Despite his fury, Khazrak's axes did little against the towering war boss. Gorfang swung his club with murderous force, but the nimble slayer dodged and struck at the massive orc's legs. The battle raged on, but in the end, Gorfang remained undefeated, though Khazrak swore his revenge would one day be completed. In the years that followed, rumors began to spread among the greenskins that Gorfang was getting on a bit. His age was becoming a topic of whispers, and many orcs started to challenge his authority. Not one to take an insult lightly, Gorfang decided to prove his strength once and for all. He gathered an army to march on the dwarf-controlled half of Carrick 8 Peaks. From across the region, orc tribes and warbands flocked to Gorfang's banner. Iron claws, broken axes, black orc mercenaries, and even nomadic warbands, fresh from battle with chaos marauders. The Grim-Toothed tribe challenged him openly, but after a brutal duel with their leader, Gorfang snapped the black orc's spine over his knee in front of thousands of cheering greenskins. With his dominance assured, Gorfang was ready for the next conquest. The battle for Carrick 8 Peaks had begun. Gorfang Rotgut, the troll leader, remains one of the mightiest orc war bosses in the Old World. His brutal reign and legendary battles have secured his place in greenskin history, but with enemies like Khazador and Skarsnik still out there, Gorfang's story is far from over. Will the Squatter King's rule stand the test of time, or will his enemies finally bring him down? Only time will tell. I want to say thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the deep dive into Gorfang Rotgut's brutal rise to power, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon for more Warhammer lore, and let me know in the comments which Warhammer legend you'd like to hear about next. And now, towards the very end of this, I want to talk a little bit about the end times and the convolution it had. So Gorfang does meet his end in the end times. Now, there is, I believe in the army book, it says Thorgrim Grudgebearer ended up chopping his noggin off and giving it to King Khazador. However, in the Warhammer End Times collection, it gives credit to Beligor Ironhammer, and also says he thrust the armies out of Black Crag. I don't know which one's canon or which one isn't. I know the End Times was extremely rushed. Anyone that remembers it, that was there for it, would know it was campaign book after campaign book after campaign book, right to Age of Sigmar. Everybody, again, thank you for your time and have a great day. Peace.